Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we have a budget update for July and August. So we are going to have a look at how we ended up spending our money in July, and then we're also going to be looking at our summer budget for the month of August. So I'm always happy to share my numbers and see what our budget is saying. Okay, so first of all, let's have a look at what happened to our spending in July. And I was extra curious this month, mainly because this time last year, I think it was the first time we'd actually gone over on our budget. So I wanted to see, have we actually evaluated that well, and did we end up going over budget again in July, or did we do okay and actually stick to the budget? Now, the budget that I'm using is something that you can also access yourself. So if you are interested, it does come with a net worth statement, a sinking funds calculator, and then you have the choice between a monthly budget template or a weekly budget template, depending on how you get paid. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already. I will leave a link in the description below for you. But if we actually start off in the month, we started off in the green. So we actually had some money left over from the previous month. We had about a £5 left to use, so that was great. And then of course our income came in, and we used that to also pay out our savings and investments, our essential bills, and then also our sinking funds. And if you're new to my channel, I tend to go over this in much more detail in the previous budget update, so definitely check that video out if you haven't already. I will leave a link up here for you and in the description below. But as I always mention, those things are pretty much paid out automatically as soon as we get paid. The only thing that we really do track is the spending part. So let's go over and see how we ended up spending our money. Okay, so let's first start off with transport. So with transport, we originally had a budget of about £160 for the month. Usually we tend to budget around 120, but because we knew we were traveling a lot more during this month, we thought it makes sense to actually increase it. So 160 is what we anticipated, but we ended up spending less, and actually just slightly more than what we usually allocate. So instead of 160, we ended up spending 128. So yeah, we didn't really need to budget as much, but I like to be a bit conservative when it comes to things like this. So of course I'm going to be happy that we were under budget when it came to transport. Next up, we have groceries. So we originally had a budget of 185 for the month, and ideally we were thinking we would spend around 46 to 47 a week on groceries. And especially with this month, we knew we would be traveling a bit more, so we may not end up cooking as much at home, and that was definitely the case. So instead of 185, we only ended up spending 162. So I think with that, it was pretty much because we were traveling a lot more during the month, rather than doing really well when it comes to our food shop, because at the end of the day, prices still be increasing these days. So I think we probably will stick to this a bit more next month, but again, I can't complain if we're spending a lot less money when it comes to groceries. And if you're liking this video so far, then feel free to give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel, plus it's free. Then we can move over to toiletries. So we originally set a budget of £40 for toiletries, and that's typically how much we would spend. Sometimes we do go over, sometimes we will go under, and for the month of July we ended up going under this month, so we only ended up spending £32 instead of £40. Now if we move over to our individual spending, so if you didn't know, we typically will allocate a certain amount for our own individual spending, so mine and also my husband's, and we can do anything with that. We don't need to ask, like it's literally individual. And when it comes to our spending, typically I spend most of it because I am a spender, and typically my husband tends to save quite a lot of the money. But this month, I think I actually ended up having about £20 left over, which was honestly a surprise to me, because I typically spend pretty much everything to the penny. But it was nice to have some money left over. I'm not really sure how much my husband had left over, but knowing him, he probably saved half of it. So yeah, when it came to our individual spending, all good for this month. Then with personal care, we had an original budget of £35 for the month, and we spent slightly less we only ended up spending £30 for the personal care category, which is great. And you may be seeing, like, we have so many categories where we just went under, and this must have been an absolutely great month. There were other areas that we did go over budget, I'm not even going to lie to you. So let's move on and see how much we ended up spending in the other categories. Okay, so now let's move over to date night, and this is definitely where we went over. Usually what will happen is during the month, if we see that we're not spending as much money in certain areas, most likely we will either spend it in miscellaneous or we'll spend it on date night. So with our original budget, it was £90 for the month for date night, but instead we ended up spending £132 for the month of July. So we definitely went over in that category, but you know, I like to be flexible when it comes to our budget. If I see that we're doing well in other areas, of course I'm probably going to want to spend the money on something else. So I would definitely say you don't have to be so strict with your budget in every category. For us, we're very adaptable, we're very loose, and I think that generally works for us, to be honest, because we don't feel so restricted in our budget. Then next up, we've got 2 direct debits. So the first one was our gym membership, so that was £36.98, and then we also had Disney Plus, which was £7.99. And then moving on, we had miscellaneous. So we originally had a budget of £30 for the month of July, but with miscellaneous, again, we did go over, particularly because we saw we went under in certain categories. When it came to miscellaneous, we ended up spending £50 instead of £30. So £20 over budget, but again, I'm not really too fussed at that, especially because we went under in so many different categories. And then after that, we had some loose change, so we tend to add that to our pennies pot. So any loose change we have, we'll add it to this pot, and we kind of use it as a mini emergency fund. So that was all good, and you can see that we ended up being under budget for the month of July, and I will 100% say I am very proud of myself, because knowing that we went over last year, I was like, that's not happening this year. I wasn't sure, but clearly we did okay. So let's now move over to the August budget and see how we're budgeting our money for that month. Okay, so let's move over to August, and again, we are starting in the green. So we had about £6 left over that we can carry towards our August budget. This has actually been happening for a couple of months now. I have no idea why. Usually we actually stick to the budget literally to the T, but we've been under budget. I'm not gonna complain. Definitely not going to complain. But yes, we had £6 that was under budget, and then we also had our income coming in, so my husband's salary and also my salary for the month of August. So let's see how much we're actually going to be saving for this month too. So with our savings and investments, we're pretty much going back to our consistent amount that we typically save. Last month was pretty much an anomaly because my husband had some extra money from his job coming in, so we got to save much more. But this month we are saving £1,100, which is obviously like a really good amount as well, considering everything that's going on. And then we also have another 50 each going into our own investments. So for me particularly, this will go into my stocks and shares ISA. So in total, we're saving about £1,200 for the month of August, which I'm still really proud of, considering, you know, we have the cost of living crisis and all of that stuff, and the economy is just, you know, so yeah, I'm definitely still happy that we're able to save quite considerably despite all the other, you know, external circumstances. Let's now move over to our essential bills. So when it comes to our rent, we are still paying $11.50 for that. Water is about $52, electricity and gas is about $117, council tax is around $136, broadband is about $26, iCloud is 99 pence, and then we also have our SIM only contracts. So my husband's phone is £12 a month and mine is £10 a month. If you're ever interested in what SIM we use, we actually use Voxy, and you get endless social media data, so definitely check out Voxy. I will leave a link in the description below for you if you are looking for a SIM contract and you're in the UK. And then we also have our tithes, charity and giving. So again, as Christians, we will always give a proportion of our income, and it's essential to us, hence why it is under our essential bills. Moving over to our sinking funds. So when it comes to our sinking funds, in case you don't know what that is, they're basically just expenses that we want to save up for over time. So as an example, one of our sinking funds is for car maintenance. So if anything happens to the car, when it comes to paying for car insurance, new tires, anything like that, we set aside money for that. And at the moment we're setting aside about 50 a month. I kind of do hope that this is enough, especially because car insurance has been increasing recently. So we'll see. But at the moment, we're setting aside 50. With our dentist appointments, we don't need to set aside money at the moment because we have enough money in our pot, which is great. Then we've also got another 10 going to my husband's rugby club, another 15 going towards a pot for any clothes we want to buy, another 15 going towards a pot for any presents we may buy, and then also another 10 going towards a skincare fund. And lastly, we also have another 50 going towards a wedding pot because we do have weddings coming up over the next year. So we just want to be best prepared for that. And so our sinking funds come to £150 as a total. And I think that will probably be quite constant over the next few months. Then we've got our spending. So when it comes to transport, we have gone back to having £120 for the month as a transport budget. So hopefully that's okay. When it comes to groceries, we've slightly increased that to £190 for the month, just because I think we're going to be home a little bit more often this month. So hopefully we're able to spend around £47 to £48 a week. Then we've also got another £40 going towards our toiletries budget, another £125 going towards our individual spending. Personal care, that is going to be £30 again for this month. Date night, we have kept it at £90 again. But if we do see that there are some areas where we're less likely to spend money, we probably will spend money in that date night pot. So I won't be surprised if that does go up again. Our gym membership is a direct debit, so that's £36.98. Disney Plus is another direct debit, so that's £7.99. And then with miscellaneous, we have slightly increased that to £35 for the month. Again, depending on how we spend our money, it may go over or under, we'll see. And then with the rest of our money, we've added that onto our pennies jar. So we are hoping to spend around £802 in total for the month of August. Now, if you realize that you are someone who will typically do a budget, but you find it really difficult to stick to it, and that's actually stopping you from saving money or even having some money to start investing, and you maybe want a bit more support with that, then definitely check out my one-on-one coaching, because what I've been able to do is help my clients really create a budget that completely works for them so that they are able to save a lot more money, they're able to start investing without having to actually have a strict budget as well. So make sure you do check that out if you haven't already. You can book a free call just to find out more about working with me. So I'll link more information up here for you and in the description below. But as I mentioned, I'm definitely happy with how July went. I was quite surprised that we ended up being under budget, but you know, happy days, and I'm looking forward to seeing how August goes too. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, how did your budget go for the last month? I do post every Tuesday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next week.